So, all right, let's get to the clear line.
Yeah, the record.
I like it. Listen, you know, there's so many people who are sadly wrongfully convicted, and I've heard people say, well, why did they plead guilty? You know, why did they say they did it, right? If you knew this process, if you know what people have gone through,
that's right.
If you know what it is to be kept from your family, to be hungry and kept awake and not being able to sleep, and someone promising you, if you say this, we'll just let you go. If you know what it is to be in jail waiting for your trial date and to get out and someone say, well, you know, if you just say you did this, you could go home, time served, then you would know why people said, I'm guilty or I did it. And too many people have been corralled into that unfortunate situation.
It happened to me.
And that ain't right. And you know, we have to really pay attention to that because it is torture, it's terrorism at the highest level. To do that to people, to corner them. I remember in my district where I live, where I grew up, where I was raised, you know, years ago, they corralled more than 3 dozen
That's right.
young men one night behind the horrible, horrible event that took place in Central Park.
Oh, yeah.
But there was political pressure to blame someone. We had to find somebody. And unfortunately, it was 5 young people who wound up taking the weight for something that they didn't even do. I am so sorry. And that's unfortunate because we can never give them those years back.
That's right.
We can't give their families their lives back. It's not just the individuals that do time, their families do time with them, their mothers, their fathers. So many events happen. So yes, maybe later on, and it took years for them to get so-called compensation, but that's not worth it. It's not worth it. We cannot wrongfully convict people. We have to take justice seriously as punishing people for when they're guilty, making sure that we don't punish the innocent and we don't wrongfully convict the innocent. So I say yes, we need to end wrongful convictions.
That's right.
That's right. No justice, no peace.
That's right. You can't have peace without justice. And justice is about ending what you're doing and stopping it. Stop doing it. It's not enough just to say we're sorry. We have to stop doing it. We have to correct it. And we know that this is a problem that affects Black communities, non-white communities. It also affects white communities, but it disproportionately affects our communities. It just adds to all of the other social ills and barriers that we have already. So we have to make sure that we keep on bringing attention to this. I applaud each and every one of you, and that's why I ran over here today. Assembly member, for your work, all the assembly members, thank you for what you're doing, because we got to keep this issue going. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We're going to get it done, and I am with you. I am with you every single day, every step of the way. And you know, the assembly member reminds me that it passed in the assembly, and now we got to get it to pass in the Senate. You know, this is what we have to do. We have to push and push. But I'm not going to quit. I'm still fighting for it.
Thank you, Senator. I need you to tell your people in the Senate to pass this bill. Pass this bill! 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 Thank you.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. That's one of my old friends, Cordell. She's been up there for quite a few years, right, Victor?
Yes.
That's one of your best friends up there.
See, every
right?
time I go up there, she's there. And I always make sure I stop and say hello to her and thank her for her support and her continuing co-sponsorship to help us get some of the bills passed.
She worked for Bill Perkins.
She did.
For how many years?
Oh, as long as he was in his office, as far as I can remember.
20-something odd years?
Yeah, she got her start with him.
And she ran that,
That's right.
She was sharp, boy. You come in there, no nonsense.
No.
No nonsense.
She keep it
Cordell.
moving, too. Get in and get you out.
So welcome to the show, Victor. It's
Thank
another
you.
one of your experiences with incarcerated folks. We dealt with a young lady last week that was eye-opening, real estate. Now this week we have a NAN member, Reverend, and served, 39 years in prison. He'll tell you the whole story if you listen to him, but we only can take short clips of it today. Welcome to the show, Reverend Gatson. All right?
It's a pleasure to be here. God bless you, sir.
Mm-hmm. So, Victor, introduce your guest.
So this is my good friend and brother that I met at the National Action Network. And of course, you know, in the work that I do, I come across a diverse group of people. But most of my population are people that are incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, and people that were wrongfully incarcerated. And I happened to come across Reverend Gatson via the National Action Network, and got a little bit of a story at the time. Wasn't too familiar with what had happened to him, but eventually what came out is that, you know, he had a story to tell and that he was wrongfully convicted, and he gave me a little, you know, substance of what it was. And, you know, subsequently we done a couple of events together that I organized through the National Action Network to highlight and amplify circumstances, situation about his wrongful conviction at the Queens DA's office, Melinda Katz. And, you know, at the behest of our leader and president, the Reverend Al Sharpton, he asked me and my committee to get involved with Reverend Gatson, and I followed his direction, and we've been working together and trying to amplify and bring some attention to his case.
So the most important thing that I've heard out of this whole thing is that recently you got some information that exonerated you or gave more light to your story. So why don't we begin with what's happened recent?
Yes, my attorney, Eric Kleiner, and District Attorney Bryce Benjamin, we went over to the reacted to murder where the homicide took place. And we discovered that the so-called eyewitness was observation distance was more than 2.5 football fields away. And that's the only thing that connected me to that crime.
So you're saying that the eyewitness was investigated recently?
Yes.
Recently?
Yes.
And you got out what year?
2016.
2016. So you've been out 7 years.
Yeah, just about.
7 years. So during this 7 years, this is the only information that you received to show your innocence?
Yes.
After 7 years and 39 years in prison.
No, 32 years in prison
And 7 years.
and 7 years on the street.
What was that like?
Jesus Christ. I had exhausted all my remedies, my pill remedies, that is, and I didn't have nowhere to go. People think I'm crazy, but I got on my knees and prayed. God directed me to go to Senator Velmanetti Montgomery. I went to her, and I was endorsed for clemency. That's how I got out. Otherwise, I'd still be in prison saying I didn't do it. They kept denying me parole every time I went to the parole board, saying I didn't do it. I went to 7 parole boards, crying, trying to explain to them what they did. We're not here to retry your case.
All right, tell me how did you finally get these lawyers to investigate your case? How did that happen?
Well, I'm a member of NAM, and I overheard this lawyer talking about a case he was handling in Jersey. So I approached him.
Would you go to legal night?
Yes. No, it was during a rally, actually. on a Saturday.
On a Saturday.
And I approached him, and he took interest in my case. And he's accepted my case, his law firm.
Do I know this lawyer? Do you know him? You know the lawyer?
The lawyer, no, I don't.
Eric Kleiner.
Eric Kleiner.
Yes.
I know Kleiner.
You know.
Yes.
It sounds familiar. I probably know him. He's probably from legal.
Yeah,
Network.
he's been to National Action Network on several
right.
occasions.
Okay.
He's probably one of the lawyers that came through.
He's
legal
handling
night.
a high-profile case in Jersey, and we had a bus. We went out there to rally.
So you told him about your case, and he investigated and
Yeah,
found this
yes.
flaw
Yes.
after all this time.
Yes.
So who represented you in the beginning?
Uh,
Legal aid?
no, it was an ATB lawyer who.
ATB is what?
18B attorney.
18B.
Yes.
That's an outside attorney that's assigned through the courts. They work. 18B attorneys are actually lawyers that are affiliated with private law firms, but
Okay.
they have a contract with the city, and usually they'll sign either legal aid or 18B. But 18B is in the circle that the city deals with when they get lawyers, but they come from outside law firms.
Okay. All right. So what do you want to, what is the most, well, the exoneration is the most important thing,
Yes.
Mhm.
but you have ill will towards, I'm sure you do,
No, I don't actually.
that helps you.
Well, in the beginning, I had a lot of remorsefulness, but and then when you get closer to God,
Okay.
forgiveness. And if they asked me would I want those people arrested or anything if they were around, I would say no,
Why?
because in the Bible that I read it says, vengeance is God. I just want to get exonerated and go about my life. I can't get a job. For 2 years, I couldn't find a job. They doing background checks, and I owe a lot of money in rent.
And what's your, you were charged with murder,
Yes, 2 counts.
2 counts of
Yes,
murder.
intentional murder and felony murder stemming from a robbery that the witness never said she saw us get in this man's cab, as they said we robbed this man's
Who was
cab.
killed? Who was killed?
Someone by the name of Casio Dirizio, a Caucasian man.
What did he do?
I don't know, he was just a taxi cab driver.
He's a taxi cab driver.
Yes.
So they accuse you of killing a taxi cab driver.
Actually, they said I was the lookout.
The lookout to rob the cab driver?
Yes, with another man. They said another man executed him, shot him in the head, and they said that we jumped in this man's cab and drove away.
You and this other person?
Yes, that's what they proclaimed.
And this other person was who? Did you know this guy?
I knew him casually. We didn't
You
like
did
each
know
other. Yeah, we crossed paths, and we didn't like each other. We had an argument one night.
Okay. So how did somebody match you up with this guy?
The police, they picked me
So
up.
you said that you were set up.
Yes, they picked me up, the officers, and they brought me to the precinct. They had this couple in there, and they tried to get me to say that I saw them do it for my release. And I said, no, I'm not going to lie on them. So they slapped me up and beat me up, tried to make me say it. And I said, no, I'm not going to lie on them.
And it was what, 2 people?
Yes, yes, a
Male-
couple.
A couple, male, female.
Yes, yes. They had children together.
Did they ever find out who did it?
As far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I don't know. They just pinned it on me and this guy, and they dismissed the case against this guy's wife for unknown reasons. But they came into court still saying she had complicity to the crime. When they actually dismissed the case against her.
All right, well, we're going to work on your exoneration, and we're going to introduce somebody we have on Zoom. His name is
Neil. Neil
Neil.
Berry, my partner, my member, my comrade in the field.
Are you listening to this story? Do you know?
Yes, I am.
Do you know the Rev?
Yes, I know.
Okay. Tell us your story.
I'm not even, I'm on two cameras, but I guess I can't see you guys, but
You can't see it?
no.
He can hear us though.
You can hear
Okay,
it.
so, yeah, my name is Neil Berry, and, in 1988, I mean, if you wanna know my story, if you know what am I doing in terms of advocacy, because what are you more interested in?
What did he say?
He said, what are you more interested in this story?
Do you have a possibility of exoneration?
I've exhausted all that appeal process, so I'm doing more around the advocacy for those who are still trying to fight for their exoneration. I'm not fighting for my exoneration, no.
So you're here just for the support?
I'm an advocacy. I'm the one that presented the wrongful conviction bill to the state assembly.
Well, how are we doing on this bill then?
Well, that's what I was here I hopefully to elaborate on. Yes, the bill has been through the state assembly. It passed in the assembly and the Senate. We're now waiting for Governor Hochul to sign it. And the sponsor of the bill is Mari and Senator Mari. And since the Mari decides that Carl Hayes gives him the go on the presidency, he'll present the bill to Hochul for signing. They had 15 days. They didn't sign on Hochul yet. She has a lot of questions, but basically just technical questions. But the bill looks good. We look forward to having the bill. The bill was mainly about 5 different points. One was the guilty plea fix, which would allow people to apply to overturn wrongful conviction if they pled guilty. That was never never the bar. If you pled guilty, you don't get out by DNA. And now that is open to all those who can. If new evidence is presented, there's a hearing possibility that they can go in front of a judge and get another hearing to be toward a pathway to exoneration. So now also the fact that there's a post-discovery conviction. We didn't have discovery. As Brother here was talking about, he didn't have access to a lot of the legal documents. There was no remedy, there was no pathway to that. We would open up a pathway for those who are inside some type of prison or in some type of environment. They would be able to have access to all the discovery moments that they have.
No,
So this way, while
she's ready
they're
now.
they can fight behind
She's
bars.
ready now.
So, and when they get out, that is never the case, but that would be a giant step towards some type of, equal justice. And then also that judge would be required to give a hearing if it was deemed by a reputable lawyer that this was presentable evidence, and besides DNA. So this is a major step. And then it would be also when the judges have discretion to assign counsel to different cases. This would allow a judge to assign counsel to post-conviction cases after the conviction is done. It's usually an appeal, but now you have the right to appeal. But this 440 this 440 CPL would allow for after the conviction to have judges assign a counsel. So really, almost everybody would be eligible for right to counsel. So it wouldn't be an over-exaggeration of people claiming that they need counsel. The judge would have to make a determination, but we didn't have that before. So yes, we pretty happy with that. And most of all, it would probably remove all the procedural roadblocks to getting this whole process started. So that's just about the 5 points I really wanted to make about this post-conviction, this wrongful conviction bill.
Yeah, thank you, Neil, and thank you for that. And I just want to just add in that, this wrongful conviction act that has got passed this legislative session, it creates a mechanism, like Neil had explained, right? That's not long and cumbersome that people, when you heard them say exhaust all means, oftentimes that means years and years and years and years of trying to appeal a conviction that has some type of inference that there was a wrongful conviction. You could, in instances prior to the wrongful conviction act, trying to appeal a case, 20 years before you even get any type of mechanism that will allow you to concretely challenge your wrongful conviction. So with the wrongful conviction act, it applies to people who also have pled guilty. Never was it ever, there was never a bill like this in New York State. So this is another mechanism for wrongful conviction and exoneration, whichever one that's applicable to your case. So this is excellent. And my good friend Neil, who's a member on the Second Chance Committee, he is a part of the Vocal New York organization that led the Coalition for Wrongful Conviction Act. And that's opens the opportunity for others who have evidence of wrongful conviction.
So this bill passed the Senate?
It's passed the Senate and it's already passed. They're waiting for the governor to sign it now.
Oh, okay.
So it passed this legislative session.
So with this new bill, how does this help Reverend Gadsden?
So for Reverend Gadsden, because he's actually going for exoneration, right? So and where he is right now, he's a lot further towards that actually happening now that they have this new evidence, right? Mm-hmm. And this particular bill, like I say, because of its mechanisms and like Neil explained, the 5 points to that, had this bill been passed already, right now, based upon what we just heard him said, it would have been a done deal already.
Whoa.
It would have been a done deal, with no doubt about it. It would have been. It would not have taken the amount of time that it's taken post incarceration for him. That would have been a done deal. So had we had a bill like that 20 or 30 years ago, wow, he wouldn't even have had to go through the procedure that he's going through right now, because that Wrongful Conviction Act creates that mechanism for that process to happen in a more expeditious manner. Whether you got found guilty at trial or whether you pled guilty, which a lot of times people plead guilty.
Wow. So this is amazing.
Yes, the ironic thing about this new bill is that when I was in the 80s doing my own appeals, the lawyer that they gave me to represent me on my appeal, he refused to litigate a claim of ineffective assistance of counsel. I had to take a crash course and litigate it myself, and I actually won. Alio Glasser, the federal judge who put John Gotti away, he ruled in my favor and said that the lower courts had erred in denying my ineffective assistance of counsel claim. And he also said that the trial judge made an adverse ruling concerning the nature of a deal that was made with the prosecutor's witness. So I actually beat them at their own game years ago.
Mm. But it did you no good.
What is interesting is that this one in, we must remember there's only 1 in 5 states that don't have a post-fiction, right to counsel. And we just happen to be one of those 5. The others are like Alabama and Texas. But the rest of them have post-conviction counsel, the right to counsel. So we're like so barbaric and draconian in our approach to this. And the discovery reform that passed, is trying to be passed in this bill, was passed in 2019 in the bail reform, but it didn't involve people who had convictions. So that's why we're fighting so hard for it, because there is a move on discovery, but it doesn't involve people who have been convicted. And we want all that information to be available from the day that they are arrested, and that's just new. The discovery will be able to be within 30 days that these district attorneys and prosecutors will have to submit all their evidence, and that's powerful.
Now, hi, Sharon. Sharon just came into this, so she hasn't heard anything we're talking about. Sharon, we have Reverend Gadsden here from NAN, and we're talking about the new bill that just came out. Are you familiar with explain it to her, Victor.
Hi, Sharon. How you doing? Long time no see. Good to see you again.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, and yourself. So we were just giving, and I have my other comrade Neil Berry, who was part of the Vocal New York Coalition, who led the campaign to get the Wrongful Conviction Act passed this legislative session. And there's never been a bill like this in New York State that creates the mechanisms for people to have redress for their wrongful convictions, as well as having counsel assigned. And I'm quite sure you're well familiar with the appeal process. Whenever you're claiming wrong conviction, in most instances, it takes years and years
That's so true.
in litigation, and oftentimes doesn't even amount to even getting the counsel or even getting the result that you want. So by this Wrongful Conviction Act that has been passed this legislative session, it actually creates the mechanism and it speeds up the process, but more importantly, the right to counsel. And usually that's what really is lacking when you're trying to appeal. If you have no money, waiting for illegal aid or an appeals attorney being assigned through the courts, by the courts, most of the time, by the time you get finished that process, you're already home. So this Wrongful Conviction Act is first ever in New York State, and I think this is going to really make a difference in our criminal legal system. And as much evidence is now being brought forth about how many people actually are wrongfully convicted and haven't had their day in court.
Oh, yes. There's
One of
a
our
lot of people.
One of our biggest thing
Allow-
about this is the plea bargain agreement. If we get the plea bargain agreement, 98% of the cases that come from New York State are plea bargain out. For reasons like, not losing family, not losing homes, not losing jobs. So people plea out to these bargains. And then you realize that now you have a criminal record. So there's long-term consequences to plea bargaining. And hopefully when this bill passes, which we think will positively pass, there's always tweaks, but we know that the plea bargaining bar we will not let go of. That besides DNA, all evidence new will be allotted, and these people were given attorneys and given pathways to exoneration. 98% of the people in New York plea bargain out. That's because of plea bargaining down, and they're being charged with the worst, so they plea bargain down because maybe they had some contact with the law before. But now we can do something to rectify that problem.
Well, yeah,
But that's wonderful news. Wonderful news, because that system has always been screwed toward conviction. And anything that can be done to assist people in this process of clearing their names, of getting out of jail, and proving their innocence should definitely be done under any circumstances, because there are enough guilty people out there that we don't really need to go and find innocent people to put in jail for crimes other people did.
That's right.
One day in jail for a guilty plea is not right. You can let 9 people who commit crime go, but to convict one person, to me, is tragedy. It's got to be rectified.
Yes, it is. Yes, it does, because that is partly what happened in the case with my son, where they were convicted and another man did the crime, and he went on to rape and kill somebody. Whereas if they had continued looking for the guilty party, that poor woman might be alive today. So there's always consequences regarding these things. There are people who are sitting on death row at this moment who may have evidence that is ready for them to be set free if they only had an opportunity to show it. Many of those people are being denied and being killed.
That's right.
So
Just for the sake of moving forward within the justice system, there is a lot of flaws within this system that need to be addressed. A lot of flaws. I know right now we have a bill up there too, bill number A818, and it deals with not only some of the things that you're talking about here a little bit, but it also deals with the family impact of these convictions. Family members are just as impacted as those people who have been incarcerated.
Right.
Because the incarcerated oftentimes don't have the money to make bail. So that leaves the people who are on the outside trying to come up with this exorbitant amount of money, putting up, let's say if they own any property, putting their house up. putting their children up. Just, it's just unreal the types of things that you have to go through to help save your loved one, to find money to pay the lawyers, to do this, that, or the other. It's not an easy process, and it's screwed toward injustice in a sense, because almost everybody they put through these processes, what should I say? They get convicted. Very few walk away free.
Hope that,
So,
I guess that's
I
your
just-
son, but I hope that the political will, through these shows like this, will get more people to call their representative, whether it be on the state or local level, and call their representatives and tell them that this bill must be passed. A phone call or a letter, but we must pass the wrongful conviction act. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Yes. That
All right.
sounds very positive.
All right.
To call your local representatives and let them know.
That's right.
Well, we've got quite a bit of good news here. This is amazing. And this is in your case, it just cropped up recently. Now you have this new law passed, so you're on your way to exoneration.
Yes, I can thank
Hopefully,
God.
we'll help you here become that. So we'll go marching through Nan at one of the rallies, and we'll invite you to the stage and say, maybe due to Victor's.
Not me. No, I don't. I am not going for that. I'm
Everybody's
part of the
hard work.
process.
Everybody's,
Instrumental. And you're
everybody's
instrumental too.
prayer.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Everybody's
I
It's
definitely
prayer.
ain't gonna take that
This is
credit. I ain't gonna
prayer
make that
time.
mistake. Not
And
me.
just give us a reverend to make it legal.
Yes.
Make it,
That's somebody.
we free a reverend. Yeah. So God is good.
All the
He
time.
finally, it's that would save us all a lot of trouble with the Central Park 5, that's for sure. And it's going to save us some trouble with you after spending all this time. Tell us a good way to get through this. Spending 32 years in prison for something you didn't do. What comes across your mind when these sort of things happen? We know Yusef's story, but
Well, in the beginning, it was very hard, mental anguish, unusual and cruel punishment, and a lot of resentment from the people, about the people who did that to me. And then I had to keep my mind off the streets. And then I got into the music program. I first started playing saxophone for 5 years. Then I got transferred, couldn't get a saxophone, so I saved money and bought a keyboard. And I've been playing keyboard ever since.
save money from what?
To buy a keyboard, instrument.
How do you save money?
Well, you work in a mess hall, or they give you a job as a porter, and you save your little dollars that you get, of somebody, people send you money, you save that, or you get someone to just help you and get it. And so in my case, I didn't have anyone. I had some people, though, in the beginning, so I got a keyboard, and it kept me out of trouble. It was my therapy. It became my therapy.
When you went into prison, you were 32 years old.
Yes, I was 32.
So you had a good life outside.
Yes, I did.
So what does that do to you? It cuts you off of your wife, your daughters, and
My
everything.
2 daughters, yes. It destroyed me. And
So-
what the ironic thing, the crazy thing about that was the Daily News, they had put in the newspaper that I was convicted with this other guy, execution-style murder of a cab driver, and that we got convicted of weapons possession. And now my mother-in-law read that. We never got arrested with any weapons or anything. My mother-in-law told her daughter if she had anything else to do with me, that she was going to disown her. Now, we just buried her father. He was living in Hollis, Queens, in a beautiful home out there. They had another home down south. They was taking that insurance money to build a swimming pool. And so I was a sanitation man, and I was making good money, and my wife was a registered nurse. And
Tore
it
family
destroyed
apart.
me. She
Destroyed
became
them.
estranged. My plans to have
Did she think you were guilty?
well, she never made a comment. She never came to see me or anything. You know, all I heard
So
was that
these people thought you were-
her mother threatened to disown her if she had anything else to do with me. Their house was adjacent to that famous jazz musician Roy Eldridge
Right.
in Hollis, Queens. And I used to speak to him and talk to him. He used to give me history about, stuff like that back in the days.
So you were talking about a situation where you didn't hang out and cut the fool.
No, I mean,
You weren't
I would
guilty
go
of
out
any
and
of
have
these?
a drink or something like that, with friends and stuff like
So
that.
you weren't
every now and
running
then.
around on your wife or anything like that? You were honest?
Well, I'm not going.
Well, you did a few things wrong.
My life was not exemplary. I'll just put it that way.
So you're a drinker and
Yes, I
cut
used
up.
to drink. I used to drink, gamble, cuss,
So how
fuss,
did you
and
get
fight.
messed up in this scene with this cab driver and a murder of a cab driver?
Yes.
Now, you told me a story about, sounds, well, since you're going to be exonerated anyway, you might as well give us, if we have time for it. It's a rather detailed story of how he was set up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I can start off with the motive. There's always got to be a motive of why people do things to you. Okay? So I would say that I graduated from the police academy in the 70s. And during the 80s, I was a civilian working for the sanitation department. On a Christmas Eve night, I heard an argument, and I was standing there, and I witnessed a homicide, and I chased the suspect until he got apprehended. We got to the precinct. The officer who was talking to me, interviewing me, he was trying to extrapolate information to write his own narration of events. And when I commented about it, he told me, he said, well, you're the victim's pimp. I said, no, sir, I'm not a pimp. I'm happily married, and I work for the sanitation department. I don't want to talk to you anymore. He got disgruntled and went and got a camera and took a photograph of me. I found out when I got the police reports that he had placed that photograph in a known gallery of pimps and prostitutes who frequent that area. So,
Why would this guy pick on you?
because I didn't want to speak to him about the 1982 homicide that I witnessed. And they locked me up in 1985 for a different homicide. After that case was resolved.
Victor?
I'm not surprised the system operating like that based upon what he said in terms of him being a witness to a homicide, right? And then the police arresting him, questioning him, and wanting him to identify people, and him, if he's a witness, he's seen something and seen somebody apparently.
Right.
And then him refusing to cooperate. So the retaliation is say, well, okay, we're gonna connect you to this crime unless you tell us something or give us a name. And more time than likely, when you don't give them a name, you become a target. And you'll get harassed. You'll be walking down the street, the police will jump out on you, just to jump out. And roust you up, rough you up, put the handcuffs on you, lock you up, take you to the precinct,
Right.
and then release you. But then you go through this over and over and over again, and then now they got it out for you because you won't cooperate and you won't help
Yeah.
them in their
Right.
case. So I can see something like that happen, especially around the time Reverend Gatson, got
We're
caught
talking
up in
about
this.
the 80s,
Yes, during 1982, when I witnessed, this guy
the
had,
crack era.
yes, this guy, he was released on parole 20 years from the date that I witnessed him murder his second victim. He had the potential to be a serial killer out
Who's
there.
this
His
person?
name was Warren Yeager.
Now this guy
He was a
is
Caucasian. His name was Warren
a
Yeager.
white guy out there killing people, which you saw.
Yes, I saw him.
And a cop, who's the cop?
I better not put his name out there. But anyway,
All right.
unless you really want me to tell.
No, I don't want to get you
There
in
might be
trouble.
some legal attachments to that, so I can understand
Right.
that.
So he was disgruntled because I refused to speak to him.
Okay, but you saw the killing,
Yes, I did.
and the cop wanted you to be a witness.
He wanted me to go along with what he wanted to write. When I was telling him trying to
What
convey
happened?
what
Oh, I see,
transpired,
I see.
and
He's making a report.
He's
He wants
trying to extrapolate information to write what he wanted to write.
Okay.
And when I made a comment, I said, "Yo, listen, I'm trying to tell you what happened. You keep stopping me and asking me questions." And then
see, I didn't
he
understand that.
said he instigated that. Well, you're the victim's pimp, the person who got murdered. I said, "No, I'm not a pimp. I work for the sanitation department and I'm happily married. I don't want to talk." And then I got upset. I said, "I don't want to talk to you no more." Then he got disgruntled and he got vindictive when he got a camera and he took a legal photograph of me. And when I was in prison, I realized that was a civil rights violation because I wasn't being arrested. He had no right to take a photograph of me.
Okay. Well, you. I imagine.
Well, it's very interesting how the system works. A lot of times, when people are approached by people who are in authority of this particular nature, and you've not been in this kind of environment before, you don't really know how it works. You don't know what to say, and oftentimes you think that you have rights, and the rights that you think you have are not really being enforced, because here's a gentleman, he's trying to help the police, and the police are turning his story into something that they want to say or do, and if you don't cooperate, then you get involved in the system. But this just shows how things need to be changed so that the police are there to protect and serve all the citizens in our communities, and not just the chosen few that they choose to protect. And it's not necessary. But one of the things I think is what needs to be changed in all of policing is the training that the police go through to get them to this point, because obviously that training is not working, and that particular training that is being used to encourage these types of behavior in policing are very detrimental, not only to people who are being arrested for crimes they didn't do, or arrested for crimes they did do, but for victims who are trying to seek justice for their crimes as well. That there needs to be something, because the training that they're receiving is not working. It's not working, it's not serving our communities well. And more people who are innocent are finding themselves in jail because of crimes they did not commit, because of the various trainings that the policemen go through, because of the various quota systems that they have to endure so that they can get the raises and get the promotions or do whatever it is that quota system does for them. You know, it's very unfortunate, and it's more unfortunate to actually realize that we're living in communities and in societies where we need policing. We need police, but we need the kind of police that's going to do the job that benefits our communities that we live in. And maybe part of it is to also have them live in these communities instead of getting paid and then going to wherever they live, upstate, out of state, or wherever. Just have them live right here too.
I'm quite sure.
Then
that
maybe
would
they
change
would
it
have
from
more
now.
respect for the people that they're living around.
I'm quite sure it would.
Well, these are stories that we all hear about, but actually witness some of the conniving ways of police. It's amazing. I mean, as much as I've heard about it, I remember in your case, in Central Park 5, the whole idea of Mateus Reyes having an encounter with Corey in prison. And him saying, Corey wasn't mad about an argument they had years before, and he felt guilty about what he had done. Because this man was in there innocent,
Yes.
suffering from what he had done.
Yes.
I understand he had a be Jesus moment and,
Yeah, that's the only
and
thing.
came
Yeah.
and confessed. But that in that case, that DNA made the difference. But this law
Well,
will make this law will
it
be a
made the
difference.
difference in a way. It made the difference in a way. And in another way, it didn't make the difference. And the reason why I'm saying that is that they had the DNA already from the people who they had convicted of this crime.
Right.
And that DNA said that none of them did it.
Right.
So that DNA should have made the difference when this happened back in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And with Matias Reyes' DNA, yes, it made a difference in a way, but all it made a difference when that happened was they came back and they said, well, this is the man we've been looking for. We've been looking for the sixth man. This is him, the sixth man. And the only reason they stopped, I believe, is because Matias Reyes made a difference. He said, well, I did some more crimes that you all have never found the person for. And he started telling them about other crimes that he had committed.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did that, they accepted that he had done this crime. But by them saying he was the sixth man and that the other boys had done something to get themselves in this situation working with the sixth man, even to this day, there are some people out there who believe in their guilt. Like, how do you fix stuff like that? How do you fix that? If there is an innate situation that says we cannot let them be innocent, totally innocent, because we don't want our police to be shown as people who make mistakes. We don't want our police to be shown as people who are going around convicting innocent people of crimes that they did not do. And we also don't want to believe our communities to think that we just running around convicting children of stuff. Or adults of stuff, or anybody of stuff. How do you fix that? Like even Trump is saying it today. What does he say? Well, there are some good people on both sides, and some good people said that they did it. So obviously, to those good people, DNA don't mean much.
Well, Mr. Gilchrist, there's something in this bill that hopefully we all understand. It's the right to counsel.
Yes.
If we have more counsel and wholly effective counsel, because it could be just as poverty, criminalized for the poverty of not being able to afford counsel. So now that they can get counsel at every step of the way of the process, whether it be police, whether it be prosecutors, our judges, that process could be scrutinized by the post-conviction counselors. That's probably it's not just one of the only ways, but it's something that is very important, is that post-conviction counsel. That's at least a pathway that I think that could be effective, because it's a multi-problem. It's police officers, community, it's prosecutors, it's judges, not following the process. So yes, but if we can get some counselors in there and everybody's guaranteed the post-conviction counsel and discovery, we're on our way toward a slight path. It's not going to be perfect, but it's something that's it's helpful. And I think it's about time that we just get this bill passed and let's make it happen, so that people have some hope that who are still incarcerated. This would give them some hope that those who've been waiting there and looking for a sign that people talking about God, this is a sign that He sent. So let's just get this passed. Let's put it out there, the awareness that this bill must be passed. Because I gotta go. We gotta move on and really pass this bill. Because
which bill are we talking about here? Which bill are we talking about? Passing.
Wrongful Conviction Act.
The one that was passed this legislative session to be signed into law.
We need to sign by the government. All we gotta do is
It just has to be signed.
Yes,
it's already been passed.
Yeah, both houses.
Sponsored by Senator Myrie,
But he's talking about passing another bill?
Assemblyman Aubrey in the Assembly. It's already been scrutinized. All we need is a signature and political will. We don't want to hear that. The people want it. So let's do this.
What bill are you talking about being passed? Is there another bill that needs to be passed?
No, this bill is the Wrongful Conviction Act. It's sitting on
All
Hope's
right,
desk
that's
right
been
now.
passed, just not signed
Pardon me?
yet. That's been
It's just
passed.
not science. She's,
All right.
she's politically trying to see what is good politically for her, because she's up for re-election. So this time of year, everybody kind of like walk in political lines, but we're not interested in that because they took a survey, 75%, whether Republican or Democrat, are in favor of this bill. Let's pass the bill.
There's no way for her not to sign it. That's just formality.
Yes, she can, yeah.
I mean,
You
we
just
fought
have
hard enough to
call
get
out
this.
Right.
Ain't no way she
Put
can't
some pressure
sign
on
it.
her.
That's
Put some
right.
pressure on her.
That's
all.
right. Pressure.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh,
Pressure.
Well, she's
And
got
what's
good
the name of
sense.
this bill? What's the number? You said it's the Wrongful Conviction Act? What is that
Right,
number for that?
it's, in the Senate, it's 7548.
And you
in
were
the Senate.
showing, and
In the
Sharon
Assembly,
was,
it's been changed because of some modifications. They had to pass it twice in the Assembly because they made some modifications. But it's still sponsored by Assemblyman Aubrey.
and Sharon,
And
you
these
were
are
talking
very
about a
much-
different bill.
Pardon me?
Sharon was talking about a
Pardon me?
different bill.
I can't hear you.
Sharon was talking about a different bill, I think.
Well, the bill I was talking about was different, but
Yeah, I know that.
that bill deals with wrongful conviction, compensation for people who have been wrongfully
Ah,
convicted
okay,
and
okay.
their families and how that works.
Okay,
Right. That's something entirely different.
Yes,
okay.
it's
Two
completely
separate
different.
bills.
This bill
Yeah.
has already been passed. That bill is up for, it has to go through the process.
Right. We've been going through the process with this bill for a long time now, but
Okay.
we're still
Yeah.
working on it and seeing how it works and going through the process. And I imagine, as many say, one of the holdups with it is because it deals with a lot of the realism regarding how people are going to be compensated and when people are going to be compensated and who now can be compensated, and it increases that pool because it's also dealing with the families who have been injured by the wrongful incarceration. Because the reality is not just the individual who's going to jail. The family is suffering too. We just heard from the Reverend, and he said his family suffered. He suffered. His children suffered.
We
You
have
know?
two great people working on our bill, Roger Clark, and her name is Neva Bez. She's from Legal Services. If they can help you out in any way, they're great champions of this bill. Roger Clark and her name is Adrian Nieves. She's in Legal Services. These two guys, they worked hard to draft the bill on wrongful conviction. So, yes, if you need their
Yes.
assistance, just call out. The wrongful
Yes.
conviction aspect. Let's pass that.
Yes, and give that number again so when they call, they can tell the people what number you have in the Senate.
The Senate, that's the bill, that's who's gonna draft it. Senate number 7548, challenging the wrongful conviction act.
Okay, and I'm hoping that many people in the audience who hear this call up about this bill so that we can get this bill passed, because it's something that is well deserved, and it obviously needs to move forward so that many of our people can get the justice that they need.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
Repeat that number one more time.
That
Yes.
number is in the Senate. Senate Myrie is the sponsor, M-Y-R-I-E. Senator Zelnor Myrie is his name. And the bill number is 7548 in the Senate, all right? And that's the ones that's the ones presented it to the host, Governor Holt.
Now you said that it's already been passed, if I am correct.
Right.
Now,
all we need
since
is
it's
she has to sign
already
it
been
in.
passed, who do we need to call? We just need to call the
Governor
governor
Hochul.
on that bill.
Governor
Yes.
Hochul, shout her out, Governor Hochul.
Governor Hochul.
Pass the bill.
We'll have
Okay.
Rev call.
Pass the bill. That's right.
Pass the bill,
Pass the bill.
pass the bill, please.
We
And
can't.
make sure you mention the number of the bill, because it's not
Yes,
enough
sir.
to say pass the bill.
Here's
No,
Let us know which
Convictions
bill you
Act.
want to pass.
here's the strategy that we did when we got the Holt bill passed in 2021. Immediately after they passed the bill in the 2021 legislative session, we camped out. We camped out
Yeah.
24 hours at the
Yeah.
then Governor Cuomo's office until they finally signed the bill. We camped out
Okay.
every day at his office
Okay.
until they signed the bill. That's a tactic that we use to help make sure that the bill got signed. It got passed, and like everything else, they seem to want to procrastinate with signing it, or they try to find some way to tweak it. We camped out at the governor's Midtown office every day until we finally got the bill signed. So think about
Sounds
that.
wonderful. Now, what we need y'all to do, who can't go up there and camp out at the office, is camp out on their phone.
That's right.
Camp on out that phone.
That's right.
Call them every day. Get your family members to call them.
Thank you.
Get your
Yes.
friends to call them. Get your
That's right.
enemies to call them.
That's right.
Call that number and
Hey.
tell them to pass that bill. What's that bill number again?
Come on,
That's
Sharon.
7548. I'll put it in the chat. That's 7548.
That's right. Put it in
That's
the
right.
chat. And
That's
when
right.
you read it in the chat, put it into some action.
That's
You
right.
can start calling Governor
That's right.
Hogan's office right now.
That's
Don't-
right.
Don't think, oh
That's
gee,
right.
she is not in all, right up there now that she's off work. Don't worry about that.
That's
The
right.
phone is still ringing.
Still
Call her and
ringing.
Let her know.
That's right.
She can get the message tomorrow.
That's right.
We gotta go.
Get that done.
We got 1
We
minute.
need a win. We need a win.
Oh, we got.
And we need a win for those people who are suffering.
That's
because
right.
it's been so many.
That's right.
You know, right now people are claiming that, what is it? 10% of the people who are incarcerated possibly are wrongfully convicted. Now, if they're claiming that much, we know that that's a low number on the totem pole, and that there are more people in there who are suffering from wrongful convictions than that.
That's right.
But
And
we must
we've
do
gotta go.
something to help these people. People are coming out of jail who've been wrongfully convicted, and they still suffering because they still have that wrongfully conviction on top of them.
And
Let's do something to help these people. Many of these people are our loved
Sure are.
ones. They could be our husbands, our brothers, our sisters, our aunts and fathers, mothers.
we gotta go.
We gotta help these people.
Thank you.
Repeat the number for that bill.
No, we don't have any more time. The God in me loves the God in you. And stay tuned for more.
Good seeing you, Sharon.
Thank you
Campaigning.
so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Brother Neil.
Get
Come
that
to me.
number out instead
Come to
of
me.
appreciating me. You should be shouting out that number.
We're
I put
past
it in
our
chat.
time. Can I get a
I shot
camera
it
over here?
today. God bless you.
The God in me
Right.
loves the God in you, and stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist experience. I should have had a
And
camera.
remember
here.
that number.
7551.
Amen.
All right. It's a wrap.